Smiling faces. Truly smiling hearts. Laurel, thank you, as always, for bringing us together. Ruth, we're all one. Wow. Thank you. Thank you again to you folks for creating this space that we can enjoy together, and for your invitation to me to enjoy it with you. If you've heard me speak before, you know that my talks are mostly me thinking aloud, so I appreciate your willingness for me to think aloud with you. As I was considering about a month or so ago about what seemed important right now, what might we need to focus on together as a community, as a fellowship, I kept hearing gratitude. And I had not looked ahead in the word, but there it was in the reading for today. Notice the blessings and give thanks for each one, the reading said. And out of that abundance we live, we give forth. Out of our giving we live, and out of our living we give. And that synergy feeds us and nurtures us. So, forgiveness wrapped in gratitude. So as I was considering what to talk about, I mentioned it, that I would be speaking, and I wasn't sure yet what I was going to be speaking about. And a friend said to me, I think we need to really focus on forgiveness. You know, it seems to be really important right now, and especially forgiving yourself. And so then I started holding those two things together. How might they merge within us? How might it be that forgiveness speaks about gratitude, and gratitude points to forgiveness within ourselves? So I've been thinking aloud about it. Of course, the caveat is that I don't know. I'm just surmising and suggesting. And certainly for folks I call grocery shop through a talk. You know, just some things you leave on the shelf because somebody else is going to need them, and some things you put in your basket and take home. But I hope that we start a conversation together about this mystery of gratitude and forgiveness. So about the same time, Richard Rohr mentioned about mystics, and how mystics behold the awesomeness of God, of being. They experience God, they behold. And I was talking with another friend about this, and he said, yes, we be and we hold. And so then I'm thinking, being grateful and holding forgiveness, that my forgiveness is wrapped in that gratitude. And then I'm being forgiving and holding gratitude. So maybe it's that our gratitude is wrapped in forgiveness, and then we're back in, again, a synergistic cycle. So a few weeks ago, Dee, another member of our community, started a conversation among us about blessing and releasing. And Phyllis and I have been talking about that a lot, and when I get all wrapped up in something that I'm obsessing about, she'll say, bless and release. She'll remind me. And I think, in a way that Dee's idea really kind of summarizes what I'm thinking about forgiveness wrapped in gratitude. If we bless a situation and we express gratitude for it, we've wrapped it in gratitude. And then we forgive ourselves and others, we release it. So being grateful and holding forgiveness is kind of what I'm talking through or thinking through. You can't always tell, but you can know, right? You can't always tell, but you just know that Ruth just shared with us, that mystery. And I smile that I've tripped over myself again. The forgiveness piece. Right? Can I forgive myself as well? Lots of different ways to think about and understand the meanings and the experiences of gratitude and forgiveness. So, I want to kind of pick up gratitude first. And maybe we experience our gratitude more readily than we define it. Maybe we can't tell it, but we can know it. And I think that's good, because but then we're being. We're not trying to. I want to cognitively understand. That's kind of the part in my hair. A friend of mine asked me one time, Katie, aren't you just glad about mystery? And I went, no. I need to understand it, because if I can understand it, then I can control it. And I came up in situations that were very unpredictable and sometimes very scary. So I'm one that the part of my hair is I want to control it. I'm not so much for mystery. And then I come to the mystery and I go, gosh, all I can do is be in it and hold it and let it hold me. Gratitude, I learned from Sister Joan Chittister. If you know her, she's a Benedictine sister, nurtures humility. So we start with gratitude, but really where gratitude takes us is to humility. And humility is that experience that I'm connected to all of creation. There's no I'm more than or less than. There's no hierarchy. There's no some are better than others. There's no, sentient being or form of creation that's anything other than what it was created to be, and it's all good. There's no that's more gooder, or less gooder. We're all on the same level, if you will. Creation in that sense is flat. There's no hierarchy. There's no hierarchy in God. Those of us that came in a Christian tradition of the Trinity does not say that the Holy Spirit is better than the Christ, is better than the Creator. They're all have equal roles. One's not more valuable than the other, and neither are we. Neither is any of us more valuable than the next. We're all created, we're all deemed good. No comparison, no hierarchy. So humility says, we're in it together. We're in the same boat. And if it's sinking, you know what? We're sinking together. There's, okay, if there's no, okay, who should we throw out first? It's we all go down together or we all fly together. We're connected. And we cannot not be connected. That's humility. That's saying, I'm in this with you. And I choose to believe that we are all loved unconditionally by Creator. Now this is a hard one for some of us, because some of us were formed in a belief system that we needed to earn our love, being loved. I was taught by my mentor, Bernie Everton, that there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There are no conditions to God's love. That I don't have to believe a certain way. I don't have to profess a certain something. I don't have to act a certain. I don't have to do a certain. Through the act of creation, am loved unconditionally in the image of the Creator. My little sister was an artist, painter, sculptor, and I understood this more as I look at her work. It all has a piece of her. It's all expression of her. So we're an expression of the Creator. And if I believe the Creator's loving, then I am love and loving. And so are you. And so are we, individually, collectively. So it's not possible for me to earn that which I've already been given. There's the act of me accepting the gift. So gratitude for the gift of being loved unconditionally nurtures humility. And humility is the beginning of forgiveness. When I recognize that we're in this together, somebody may have done something that came up against me and harmed me in some way, maybe even intentionally. But I'm connected to that person. So now what do I do, given that we've got that tension with each other, and humility says we're connected? I can't not be part of this person. Howard Thurman said it this way. Dr. Thurman was a magical, mystical, loving, deep, wonderful, intellectual. His autobiography is titled With Head and Heart. So he was the whole package, the real deal. Dr. Thurman, one of my favorite sayings of his, said, "The deeper I go into you, the further I come up in me." The deeper I go into you, knowing you, understanding you, caring for you, experiencing you as you experience yourself, the further I come up in me, because we're connected. Your experience may be different, but the essence of who we are is the same. Humility. So gratitude, nurturing humility, and then we look at forgiveness. So many situations, many meanings, many understandings of forgiveness. When we've been harmed, we can readily identify the need for the other person, to ask for forgiveness. When we've harmed others, it might be a little bit more difficult to realize we need to ask for forgiveness. When the one we've harmed is our own self, how can we recognize to forgive that I need to forgive myself for something that I've done that may be intentional, maybe not? But when I recognize that it's caused a harm, it's caused a tension, it's caused an upset and this connection, that I need to recognize it. And we talk about forgiveness meaning release it. That releasing. And then what about when we've harmed God? When we've broken God's heart? Do we think that we need to ask God to forgive us when we've broken God's heart? Interesting concept. So for our discussion, I want to suggest what my mentor, Bernie Overton, taught me about forgiveness at its core. It's realizing that there's actually no debt to be paid. The debt that you owe me because you harmed me is wiped off the slate. Forgiveness goes beyond releasing the debtor to realizing there is actually no debt here. Because it's cyclical, we're all connected. We're in the same boat. The boat's sinking. There's not, one of us is better than the other. There's not one that needs to, we're either going to sink together or we're going to fly together. We're connected. So recognizing that I'm unconditionally and truly believing that calls me to love unconditionally. There is no debt you owe me. Whatever it is that you've done, you person that might have harmed me, you've done that out of who you are and what you're doing and how you're living your life and how you're being and how you're holding, and I can't control that. That's for you, other, to decide about. I can choose to continue to love you without condition on how you treat me. The love that I choose to experience, the love that I choose to accept from Creator, calls me then to love you in the same way. I'm not suggesting that we not hold each other accountable or that we make excuses. I'm saying we look deeper into holding each other accountable, into saying, you are loved so deeply. What's going on with you? It's not a question for me to answer for somebody else, but if I've harmed somebody else, what's going on with me that I've acted this way toward God's creation? What is that about for me? So there is no debt. I forgive my debtor as I forgive those who have harmed me. I'm forgiven as I forgive. I am loved as I love. If I am loved this way, then I'm called to love in the same way, unconditionally. I'm giving the suggestion again that when I petition to be forgiven of my debts, I'm acknowledging my humility and my connections. And as I forgive, so am I forgiven. As I wipe a slate clean, so is my slate wiped clean. As I realize that I'm created and loved unconditionally in the same way as the one who harmed me, loved unconditionally. I learned the dynamic of this from my mentor. I worked with him for nearly 20 years. And early on, I was out of graduate school and looking to begin a practice in counseling. And I realized after several years of working with him, there was no thing I could do, say, act, believe, or feel that would cause Bernie Overton not to love me. It amazed me. And as I learned further, there was no thing I could do, say, act, or believe for Bernie Overton to love me. He loved me because that's who he was and is in my life. Not because of something I did, but because of who he was and who he chose to be to me. I couldn't control that. It took me a minute to not realize that's something I can't control. I cannot control his love for me. And therefore, am I not? It saved me. That recognition saved me. Saved my life. I would have died otherwise. So, would I not want to offer that to any other person that comes across my path, including myself? To not put conditions on myself for me to be loved? And then out of that love, I express that love. As we go deeper into the other and we come further up in ourselves, do we not see ourselves in the other? Even someone who's harmed us, do we not then see ways we've harmed others? Do we not see ways we've harmed ourselves? Do we not see ways we've broken God's heart? So I'm going to tell a story, try to make it a short one, even though it's very, very deep and very complex and very, you have to know it more than tell it. Anybody heard of Corrie ten Boom and her story? Corrie ten Boom was a Dutch watchmaker who hid Jews from the Nazis and was caught. And she and her sister were sent to a concentration camp. Her sister was murdered by a guard who just beat her unmercifully, and Corrie witnessed this. She survived the concentration camps and went on to write about the miracles that she experienced. Material miracles the woman experienced. And wrote a book called The Hiding Place, which then was made into a movie. And she became an evangelist and was speaking all around the world. And she was in Berlin some years later, and a man approached her and said he came to hear her and to ask for forgiveness. And he was one of the guards at the camp. And she said, I couldn't forgive him. And she said, when I looked at my unwillingness to forgive him, I experienced the suffering of the Christ. And she said, if God will suffer for me, what suffering can I not endure? And she survived the concentration camp, and she said, I can't forgive him, but I recognize the love of God, and the love of God in me can forgive him. Interesting juxtaposition, right? Being and holding. I'm grateful for the love of God. And so in that gratitude, I can wrap forgiveness and hold it. Mystery. Can't know it. Can't tell it. Just can know it. And she said that the belief that God's love was for her, and she expressed gratitude for the gift of God's love, is what allowed her to hold forgiveness for this man. She said several things about it. Quote, you never so touch the ocean of God's love as when you forgive and love your enemies. And she said, in that moment, I knew the ocean of God's love. Unconditional love is a two-sided spiritual sword. It cuts both ways. We're loved unconditionally. We love unconditionally. If I'm loved unconditionally by the Creator, am I not then called to love unconditionally? No ifs, ands, or buts. And again, I'm not suggesting that we ignore or excuse harmful acts. Rather, that we hold that intense love for each other till we recognize what we're doing to ourselves and to each other. Corrie ten Boom also said there's no pit so deep that God's love is not deeper still. And I can't think of a deeper pit than being in solitary confinement cell in a concentration camp. Is there one? She said, I can't forgive him, but God forgave me and gives me forgiveness. And because of that, I can forgive him. It's not our forgiveness any more than our goodness, Corrie says, upon which the world's healing hinges. It's not on our forgiveness any more than it is on our goodness that the world's healing hinges, but it's on God's goodness and forgiveness. When God tells us to love our enemies, God gives, along with the command, the love itself. So she goes on to say that hatred and forgiveness is like ringing a church bell. I really like this metaphor. Probably more an analogy. It's like ringing a church bell. That hatred and revenge and upset and turmoil that we hold on to. We pull on the rope, we pull on the rope, we pull on the rope till that bell starts ringing. And it starts ringing, and we tell that story, and we retell that story, and we pump up that hatred, and we pump up that tension, and that let me say I. Let me take back away from we, and Phyllis can tell you, I do this. I'm a grudge holder. I don't let go. If you hurt me, I got you. I see who you are. And I start ringing that bell. And I tell it, and I retell it, and how dare you. And Corrie says, but if you release it, if you let go of the rope, eventually it has its momentum, and it'll go for a while. But eventually, it stops ringing. Bless and release. Dee taught us. Corey finally said, you can't learn that God is all you need until God is all you have. You can't learn that God is all you need until you realize that God is all you have. He said, there's no panic in heaven. There's no panic in heaven. God's got this. And if heaven is with us here and now, those of us who are Christian, we're taught it's at hand. It's here. There's no panic. There's unconditional love. Breathe it. Accept it. Be it. Hold it. And go forth with blessing and releasing. Thanks for thinking with me.